Today I'll be doing my presentation for the Game of Roulette, a supply management in the technology field, and Dr. Glaser, I will try to keep this under 5 minutes. So starting off, what is purchasing? Purchasing is the activity of acquiring goods or services to accomplish the goals of an organization. Now, purchasing is quite a bit more complex than that, and especially when we deal with the field of technology, it's quite a bit more advanced. Historically, as World War II came to an end, the industrial mindset of the United States turned to one focused more around leisure and desires, and this is when the technology began advancing at the speed of light. That's caused quite a set of additional challenges in purchasing with technology. First of all, purchasers in technology need to determine the proper vendors. They're dealing with products that haven't been tested as much as commodity items, and it can cause a hang-up in the actual manufacturing and purchase. And they've also got to be able to predict a vendor's success in the ability to produce a product and the success of the product with consumers. The materials required in machinery may be different than anything experienced, so there's always the risk of being left with materials, inventory, or worse, assets such as machinery, which is obsolete. When you talk about purchasing for retail stores who sell technology products, there's even more of a risk. You have to make the decision if you're going to purchase the technology early while profit margins are high, or exercise a lower risk exposure and enter the market when the products have been proven to be more of a commodity and margins are lower. The decision will be made based on what type of store you are. So a larger general store such as Walmart may decide to only carry the items once they've become more mainstream and proven their success, because the employees would be less trained in selling them, so they'd have a harder time selling the more expensive products. In the more specialty stores, though, they do typically carry those advanced products earlier because they do have those customers coming in looking for the product as soon as it comes out. They're called early adopters, and they are quite profitable for the company because they're able to make purchases when the company is able to capture the highest margins. There are a few examples of bad decisions or mistakes in technology purchasing. The first one actually was Best Buy. And basically what happened is in 1995, the Microsoft announced they would be coming up with a new operating system. It was quite long overdue, and that it would be releasing in the beginning of 1996. The problem here is that Best Buy had already committed to their major purchase or their purchase commitments for the holidays, which is their busiest time of the year. It turned out to be about $1 billion in computer inventory the company had to actually sit down and make a decision, and decided to immediately reduce the price of the computers right out of the gates, sometimes even selling them below cost in order to run through the inventory so that when the new product came out, they would have the financial ability to purchase the new product and have it in stock. It was a widely successful tactic, even though it did result in a loss for the company. And ultimately, the result for its competitors was probably worse, because they weren't anticipating taking a price reduction, but they had to do it in order to keep up with the competition. A decade later, with the release of the HD DVD and Blu-ray, there was a battle between formats. In this situation, one format wasn't seen to be any better than the other, but there was a concern by purchasers because they didn't know which format would win out, if you will. 8 years later, after a long drawn-out battle, on January 4th, Warner Brothers announced they would no longer issue HD DVDs, and about a month later, Toshiba announced that they would no longer produce HD DVDs, and they were the manufacturers backing them. So in this case, Blu-ray won out. And it was a relief for buyers because they now could focus all of their efforts on one format, when before they had been purchasing in small selections until the preference was finalized. In production, producers cringe even more about the risks because they deal with the ability or the risk in the timeless of manufacturing, so ensuring that they're manufacturing products fast enough to get them on the shelf before their shelf life is over. They utilize just-in-time ordering so that they don't have an overabundance of supplies sitting around or inventory sitting around that could become obsolete before sold. And then they again have to assess things like the machinery with forethought to ensure that if They are no longer able to produce that item, or it advances into something else that they can utilize that machinery, repurpose it, or possibly upgrade it for the new standards. So if technology is so complex, why get involved in the first place? Companies have become forced to innovate with speed, quality, and efficiency in order to remain competitive in the dynamic changing marketplace. Numerous studies have shown that industry leaders attribute about half of their revenues to products developed within the past 5 years, and the bottom performers only receive about 1/10 of their revenues from the new products. Namely, the statistics show that 50 to 80% of products fail. And so there's the risk as well, as you pick up these new products, but you don't have the ability to be able to tell if they're going to fail or succeed. Overall, there are some things that you can do or precautions that you can take in order to be offensive in the game of purchasing, such as partnering your IT department with your purchasing department in order to make those decisions. Ultimately, the reward in the successful management of purchasing technology products is potentially high. However, it does not come without risk. And that's all I have. Have a great evening.